In the quiet moments of your life, when the noise fades and you're left with your thoughts, there's a stirring within you, a longing for purpose, for meaning, for something greater than the mundane routines of daily existence. It's in these moments that you realize you are more than the labels others place upon you. You are more than the titles, the roles, the expectations. You are a unique individual with a story that is yours alone and a potential that is boundless. You don't need a building adorned with stained glass and pews to define your worth. You don't need rituals and ceremonies to validate your existence, for within you lies the power to choose, to change, to rise above the circumstances that seek to hold you down. The world may tell you that your value is determined by your affiliations, your achievements, your possessions, but I tell you this: your value is inherent, intrinsic, and undeniable. Look around you. The world is full of individuals who have found their calling not within the walls of a church, but in the everyday acts of kindness, in the pursuit of knowledge, in the dedication to their craft. They have chosen to live with purpose, to make a difference, to leave a legacy. And so can you. You don't need to wait for permission. You don't need to seek approval. The power to change your life, to shape your destiny, lies within you. It always has. The journey may not be easy. There will be challenges, setbacks, moments of doubt, but remember this: every great achievement was once considered impossible. Every trailblazer faced opposition. Every dreamer encountered obstacles. Yet they persevered, and so can you. Embrace your uniqueness. Celebrate your individuality. Recognize that your path is yours to forge. You are not defined by the expectations of others. You are not confined by societal norms. You are free to choose, to act, to become the person you are meant to be. In the end, it's not the accolades, the titles, or the recognition that matter. It's the impact you have on the lives of others. It's the difference you make in the world. It's the legacy you leave behind. And that, my friend, is something that no institution can bestow upon you. It is something you create with every choice you make, with every action you take, with every life you touch. So, step forward with confidence, walk your path with purpose, and know this: you are chosen, not because of where you worship, but because of who you are and the potential within you. The world is waiting for you to rise, to shine, to lead. And I have no doubt that you will. This speech attempts to capture the motivational tone you're seeking, emphasizing personal empowerment and purpose without direct religious references. If you have specific elements you'd like to incorporate or adjust, please let me know, and I'll be glad to refine the content further. You don't need a building of bricks and wood and stained glass to define who you are. You don't need a steeple stretching to the sky to confirm what's already been placed inside you since the beginning. You see, there's a dangerous belief that has taken hold in too many hearts. The belief that unless you walk through those polished doors, unless your name is on a roster, unless your voice has echoed in the sanctuary, then you are somehow less, somehow unworthy, somehow not chosen. But let me tell you something clear and true. Your worth was never written on the walls of a church. It was written deep within your spirit. From the moment you took your first breath, before any title could be pinned to you, before any denomination could stake a claim on you, before anyone could try to measure your value by how often you sat in a pew, you were already chosen. Not because of your attendance record, not because of how loudly you could sing a hymn, but because there is something eternal, something immeasurable inside you that no man, no institution, no tradition can give or take away. There are people walking this earth right now who haven't stepped foot inside a sanctuary in years, yet they carry peace, they walk with compassion, they extend grace, and they uplift the brokenhearted. There are souls who have never worn a name tag at a fellowship meeting, never bowed their heads beneath a stained glass window, but they feed the hungry, they sit with the lonely, they give hope to the weary. And if you're telling me those people aren't chosen, then you don't understand what it means to be chosen at all. You see, the divine doesn't wait for roll call on Sunday morning. The call doesn't only come through a microphone or a pulpit. It comes in the stillness of the night when your heart is aching and your spirit is weary. It comes when you're watching the sunrise in silence, when you're holding the hand of a friend in grief, when you're standing up for what's right even when you stand alone. That's when the choosing happens. That's when you know you've been seen, been known, been called, and none of it required a building. Now hear me. This is not to tear down the beauty of the gathering place. No, there's power in community. There's strength in shared faith. And there's comfort in the chorus of voices lifted together. But don't you dare believe for a second that your connection to the eternal is restricted to those four walls. Don't let anyone tell you that your spiritual life is on pause because you haven't signed your name to a register. You are not a product of your attendance. You are a product of your heart. And if that heart beats with love, with grace, with truth, then you are walking in something far more sacred than any sanctuary. Some of the most powerful people to walk this earth were never praised by men. They weren't written about in the bulletin. Their names weren't read from a platform. They never wore a robe or stood behind a lectern. But they were lights in the darkness. They were voices for the voiceless. They were quiet storms of courage and mercy. They weren't chosen because someone laid hands on them in front of a crowd. They were chosen because when the moment came, they said yes. They stood up. They stepped forward. They acted with conviction when it would have been easier to stay silent. There are people who walk through every Sunday service yet leave unchanged, untouched, unmoved. They go through the motions, they check the boxes, they know the verses, but the fire isn't there. And then there are people who haven't darkened a church door in decades, but they carry a quiet fire inside them that refuses to die. They live with integrity, they give with abandon, they forgive when it's hard. That fire didn't come from the architecture. It came from the divine spark placed inside them long before the world tried to define them. Let me remind you of this. You were made in the image of something greater. Not in the image of an organization, not in the image of a system, not in the image of tradition, but in the image of love, in the image of purpose, in the image of infinite possibility. That means your value is not up for debate. It's not earned by showing up at the right place at the right time. It's already been given, already been sealed, already been spoken over you. So don't let guilt weigh you down. Don't let shame tell you that you've missed your chance. Don't let someone with a title convince you that you're less because your path doesn't look like theirs. The voice that calls you doesn't care about the size of the building or the echo of the organ. It cares about the sincerity of your yes. It listens for the sound of your spirit saying, "Here I am, use me." And maybe you're walking through a season where church feels far away. Maybe you've been hurt. Maybe you've been excluded. Maybe you've sat through sermons that made you feel more judged than loved. That pain is real. That ache is deep. But I want you to know that even in the wilderness, even in the doubt, even in the absence of stained glass and choirs and bulletins, your name is still known. You are still seen. You are still chosen. You are not less spiritual because your altar is a park bench, because your prayers rise up while you're washing dishes, because your sanctuary is the stillness of a morning walk. You don't need a cross on the wall to remember who you are. You just need to listen to that quiet pull inside you that says, there is more, there is meaning, there is a reason I'm here. That voice, that gentle, persistent voice, that's the one that calls. That's the one that chooses, and it has never once required a pew. You can live with love. You can lead with hope. You can be a force for good in this world without ever once stepping into a building. You are not waiting for a title to be worthy. You are not waiting for a pulpit to speak truth. You are not waiting for a platform to shine your light. You already have everything you need. It's been in you from the beginning. And no one, no place, no lack of formal recognition can take that away. Purpose doesn't come wrapped in robes or bound in ritual. It isn't something handed to you with a membership card or a confirmation certificate. Purpose isn't waiting behind a podium or buried in a sermon. It's already there. It's alive. It's breathing in you, quietly waiting for you to notice, to listen, to lean in. You were born with it. It's not earned by sitting in a certain seat or belonging to a particular group. It doesn't require applause, and it doesn't demand permission. It comes from within. It always has. There are people walking through life every day, aching for meaning, chasing after validation, believing that purpose is something they'll find once they're accepted by someone, somewhere. But what they don't realize is that they've been carrying it all along. The spark is already in their soul, the blueprint etched into their being. You don't have to search 1,000 miles to find it. You just have to stop long enough to hear the quiet whisper that's been calling you since the beginning. That whisper doesn't shout, it doesn't wave flags, but it's steady, it's persistent, it's true. The world has gotten very good at selling the idea that purpose is out there somewhere, waiting in the wings of a platform, hiding in the shadows of recognition. It tells you to climb ladders, chase accolades, get the degree, earn the title, and maybe, just maybe, you'll stumble across your true reason for being. But that's a lie dressed up in ambition. Because the truth is, purpose isn't a prize at the end of a path. It's the heartbeat of the journey itself. It's the way you live, the way you love, the way you show up for others when it's hard and inconvenient. You don't need a sermon to remind you of your purpose. You just need to remember who you are, and who you are is someone with gifts this world has never seen before in the same way. Someone with fingerprints that have never touched this earth until now. Someone with a voice that trembles with truth even when it's afraid to speak. Someone with eyes that see injustice and refuse to look away. That's not an accident. That's not a coincidence. That's purpose. Purpose lives in the way you show up for your family when the world feels like it's falling apart. It's in the quiet dignity of your labor, even when nobody's watching. It's in the laughter you bring to a room that forgot how to smile. It's in the tears you shed for a stranger, in the courage it takes to say, "I don't know, but I'm still going." And it's in the choice to believe over and over again that your life matters, even when everything around you tries to tell you otherwise. People often wait for some big sign, some dramatic calling, as if purpose will come with lightning or a burning bush. But more often than not, it comes with a nudge, a pull, a burden that won't let go, a question that won't stop haunting you, a cause that keeps you up at night, a fire that keeps burning even when everyone else says let it die. That's how it speaks. That's how it moves, and you don't need a pulpit to preach it. You don't need a microphone to declare it. You just need to live it. You were made for more than survival, more than checking boxes and following rules. You were made to light up dark corners, to challenge the silence, to lift the fallen. And that kind of life doesn't start in a building. It starts with a decision to say yes. To say, I will live for something greater than myself. I will not be tamed by fear or boxed in by tradition. I will walk this earth knowing that every step I take can echo with purpose. That decision can be made anywhere. On a bus, in your kitchen, in a hospital waiting room, on a mountaintop or in a valley. Purpose doesn't need a pulpit. It needs your yes, and maybe your path looks different than the ones around you. Maybe you don't wear the same clothes, say the same words, or follow the same script. That doesn't make you lost. That doesn't make you wrong. It makes you real. It means you're listening to something deeper, something that doesn't always fit neatly inside the boxes we've built. and that kind of authenticity, that kind of truth, that's where real purpose lies, because purpose isn't about pleasing people. It's not about blending in or following the crowd. It's about standing firm in what you know to be true. It's about using what you've been given, your pain, your joy, your story, to make this world a little bit brighter, a little bit kinder, a little bit more just. And if you're doing that, if you're waking up every day and choosing to live with intention, to love with courage, to move forward even when it's hard, then you are walking in purpose, whether you know it or not. There are people who wear titles, who stand on stages, who lead in name, but they've lost the spark. They've forgotten the why. And then there are people like you, living in the quiet spaces of this world, who are carrying purpose like a sacred flame. You may not be praised for it. You may not be seen by the crowd, but heaven notices. The world changes because of people like you, the ones who don't wait to be told they matter, the ones who already know it. So many are searching for their calling, believing it will come in some dramatic, earth-shaking moment. But what if it's already here? What if it's in the way you love your children, the way you fight for justice, the way you comfort the broken? What if purpose has been waiting all along for you to stop chasing and start becoming? What if it's not something you find, but something you choose, and that choice doesn't come once, it comes every day? Every moment, with every interaction, every time you decide to live with integrity, to give when it's hard, to stay when it would be easier to leave, to believe in yourself when no one else does, that's purpose. It's not always glamorous, it's not always loud, but it's real and it matters. You don't need to wait. You don't need to ask anyone's permission. You don't need to be inside any building to start walking in the reason you were born. Purpose is here, now, within you, not someday, not after you've checked all the boxes, but today, right where you are, with what you have, with who you are. There will be days when the ground shakes beneath your feet and nothing feels steady. Days when the questions are louder than the answers, and the weight on your chest presses harder than it did the day before. You'll wake up sometimes and wonder how you're going to make it through, and you'll look around at others who seem so sure, so stable, so confident, and you'll feel like you're falling behind. But I want you to know, those days don't disqualify you. Those moments don't take you off the path. In fact, they may be the very proof that you are on it. Nobody gets to where they're going without walking through something. Purpose, calling, growth, all of it is forged in the fire of struggle. There is no shortcut through pain, no bypass around failure. And though the world may try to paint pictures of easy success and overnight transformation, don't believe the illusion. Real strength is built in the storms. Real faith is tested in the valley. Real growth doesn't happen when everything is perfect. It happens when everything is hard and you keep going anyway. You're going to face opposition. You're going to come up against voices, some loud, some quiet, that try to convince you to stop. Voices that say you're not enough, that you're too broken, too late, too uncertain, and those voices won't always come from strangers. Sometimes they'll come from people you love. Sometimes they'll come from inside your own head. But let me remind you, the presence of resistance doesn't mean the absence of purpose. It means you're pushing against something that matters. It means you're stepping into territory the enemy doesn't want you to claim. Think about every person who's ever done something meaningful. Every single one of them was told to give up. Every one of them faced doubt, fear, criticism, and exhaustion, and every one of them had to make a decision. Do I keep going, or do I let this stop me? Not one of them made it because the road was easy. They made it because they kept walking when it wasn't. They kept standing when it hurt. They kept showing up when it would have been easier to walk away. And you will too, because it's not about being the strongest or the smartest or the most connected. It's about refusing to quit. It's about believing in what's inside you more than you believe in the obstacles in front of you. It's about getting up every day and saying, even if today is hard, even if I'm tired, even if I'm not sure, I'm still going. That kind of resolve isn't taught, it's chosen. That kind of faith isn't handed to you. It's built one decision at a time. Some of the greatest battles you'll face won't be visible to anyone else. They'll be internal, they'll be quiet. They'll be the private wars between what you feel and what you know, between what your heart longs for and what your fears try to keep buried. But hear me, you don't lose just because you're struggling. You don't fail just because you're afraid. Courage doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means choosing to move forward in spite of it. Sometimes we think being chosen means being immune to struggle, that if we were really on the right path, things would fall into place, doors would open, peace would follow. But that's not how growth works. That's not how transformation happens. Being chosen doesn't mean being protected from every storm. It means being sustained through them. It means walking through the fire and coming out refined. It means knowing that every challenge is shaping something deeper in you, something stronger, something that can't be shaken. You won't always see the results right away. You might give your all and feel like nothing is changing. You might do the right thing and still face resistance. And in those moments, it's easy to wonder if it's worth it. It's easy to ask, why keep going when it doesn't seem to matter? But that's exactly when it matters most. Because what's being built in you is bigger than what's happening around you. What's happening inside you is preparing you for things you can't even see yet. Don't let the struggle fool you into thinking you're failing. Don't let the delay convince you that you've been forgotten. Sometimes the greatest things take time because you're being prepared to carry something greater than you imagined. Sometimes the silence is not absence, but preparation. You're being shaped, molded, strengthened, and that kind of shaping doesn't happen on the mountaintop. It happens in the valley. You might not feel like a fighter, but you are. You've survived things you never thought you would. You've carried pain you didn't think you could bear, and still here you are, breathing, hoping, trying again. That's strength, that's courage, that's proof of something fierce and unshakable within you. And if you've come this far, don't you dare stop now. There are people who need your story. People who are waiting for the light you carry. People who will find hope in your perseverance. They're not looking for perfection. They're looking for real, for raw, for honest, and your willingness to keep going, to stay the course, to rise from every fall. That's what gives them permission to do the same. So when the road gets hard, and it will, remember this, the struggle doesn't mean you're off course. It means you're right in the middle of becoming more grounded, more focused, more unshakable. And that version of you, that version is needed. Not some polished, flawless figure, but the real you. The one who's been through it, who's wrestled with doubt, who's walked through fire and still said yes to the next step. Keep going not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. Because what's ahead of you is far greater than what's behind you. And because the world needs people who don't just talk about faith or purpose or calling, but live it out even when it hurts, even when it's hard, even when no one's clapping. That's how movements begin. That's how chains break. That's how lives are changed. And maybe you've fallen. Maybe you've gotten it wrong. Maybe you've let fear lead more than once. That doesn't disqualify you. That doesn't define you. What defines you is what you do next. Do you stand back up? Do you try again? Do you believe that it's not over just because you stumbled? You're allowed to be human. You're allowed to cry, to rest, to question. But don't stop. Don't quit. Keep walking. Keep pressing. Keep believing that what's inside of you is greater than any force that tries to stop you. And every time you choose to rise, every time you say yes in the face of fear, you are writing a story that will inspire others to do the same. You won't find legacy written in plaques or printed in programs. It doesn't echo in applause or shine in the spotlight. Legacy isn't carved into stone or sealed in titles. It lives in the quiet places, in the hearts of people you've touched, in the moments no one sees. It's not about being remembered by many, it's about being remembered by someone whose life was made brighter because you lived. So often, people chase recognition thinking that's what legacy means. They imagine their name printed in books, their photo hung on a wall, their achievements listed in a resume or recited in a speech. But real legacy has never been about attention. It's about impact, and impact can happen in silence. It can happen in kitchens, in classrooms, in hospital rooms, on sidewalks, in shelters. It can happen through a kind word, a steady presence, a selfless act that no one claps for. That's where the lasting things happen, not in grandeur, but in grace. You don't need to be on a platform to make a difference. You don't need a title to lead. You don't need an audience to be faithful. The measure of a life is not how loudly it's lived, but how deeply it's felt. And you, just by being here, just by waking up and choosing to love, to serve, to stand firm in truth, you're already building something that matters. Legacy is the teacher who stays late to help a student who's falling behind. It's the neighbor who brings groceries to the elderly woman down the street. It's the father who shows up even when he's exhausted. It's the friend who answers the phone at midnight, the stranger who gives without expecting anything in return. These are the things that change the world. These are the things that last. When people look back on your life, they won't remember the clothes you wore, or the car you drove, or the position you held. They'll remember how you made them feel. They'll remember if you listened, if you loved well, if you stood up when others stayed seated. That's legacy, not what you had, but what you gave, not what you earned, but what you sowed into others. Not the image you built, but the lives you lifted, and the beautiful thing is, you don't have to wait to start. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't need a perfect plan or a perfect record. You just need to decide to live each day with intention, decide to see people, really see them, decide to be the one who doesn't walk away when things get messy, the one who chooses compassion when judgment would be easier. Because every day you live like that, you're laying bricks for something eternal. Too many people think they need to be celebrated to be significant, but some of the most powerful legacies are written in shadows. They're not loud, they're not flashy, they're faithful, they're quiet, and they carry more weight than any public praise ever could. You might never know the full impact of your life. You might never hear the stories, never see the fruit. But that doesn't mean it isn't there. You plant seeds that grow in soil you'll never touch. You change lives in ways you'll never fully understand, and that's okay, because the point isn't to be noticed, it's to be true. If you live a life full of love, if you give more than you take, if you stand for the voiceless, if you offer kindness when no one's watching, you are living a legacy that matters, and no institution, no system, no title has the power to validate or invalidate that. It's not something handed to you. It's something you build, one decision at a time, one moment at a time, one act of grace at a time. And legacy doesn't mean you've never made mistakes. It doesn't require perfection. In fact, some of the most meaningful legacies are born out of brokenness. They're shaped by people who fell hard, who got it wrong, who lost their way, but who kept going, who turned their pain into purpose, their wounds into wisdom, who reached back after rising up, who helped others climb from the same pits they once knew too well. That kind of legacy is honest, it's raw, and it heals people in ways that polished lives never could. The world is desperate for that kind of legacy, not fame, not flash, but faithfulness. People who stay when it's hard, who believe when it's dark, who give even when they're empty. That's what leaves a mark. That's what writes a story that outlives you, and maybe no one's clapping for you right now. Maybe you feel unseen, unappreciated, unheard, but don't let that lie to you. The absence of applause doesn't mean the absence of impact. You're making waves in places you can't see. You're leaving fingerprints on hearts you didn't even know you touched. And one day, when you're not around to hear it, someone will say, "They changed my life," and not because of what you had, but because of who you were. Keep doing the small things. Keep choosing the better thing. Keep being the one who shows up, the one who believes, the one who brings peace into chaos and light into darkness. You are building something far more valuable than a reputation. You are building a legacy, and that legacy, your legacy, isn't dependent on a pulpit or a platform. It doesn't require a religious badge or a formal blessing. It's already in your hands, in your heart, in your choices. You don't need a church to give it meaning. You don't need an audience to give it power. What you're doing, how you're living, it matters, and it's shaping a story that will echo long after you're gone.